So I need to flip that around. There we go. Am I live? Looks to be so. Right. Well, I'm live. I'll give people a few seconds to get in here. And I'm going to put some music on. I think that's right. Hopefully it's not too loud. That should be good. All right. Well, hi everybody. I've wanted to do this live stream to commemorate an important moment of... I finally have released everything that I set out to release, and then some, actually. So, I thought I would get on here and go through everything, and maybe give you guys a little bit of the story behind the albums, or songs, or whatever. I do have a lot here. As you can see, I've apparently done more than I thought I did. So, I'm going to give some shout outs to people and show off the various musical artifacts that I have released. And I'm saving the most important one for last. So, to give you guys a little bit of backstory, I have been doing music since I was 13, 14. I'm now 37 years old, so that should give you an idea how long I've been doing this. I've been doing it for a minute. I've always been striving to do better, or learn more, or trying to evolve myself with this. Always been fascinated with different sounds, or how sound works, or how these different mediums that we have been playing with work. So I've always strived for that, and decided to just keep going. It's the one thing in life that I never actually gave up. The one dream that I've just kept following. So, a while ago, I was derping around on YouTube, and I discovered this channel called This Exists. And on that channel, yeah, I went to there in Bermuda. On that channel for This Exists, I saw this video titled Vaporwave, Is It Real? Or something to that effect. I was like, well, the picture looks pretty. Let me check this out and see what this is all about. Sat and watched that video, and from that video I was introduced to Mac Plus, Blank Banshee, Saint Pepsi, and those were the three that I gravitated toward the most. So then I started doing what I always do. I find something that interests me and I just start digging. And I started looking up what this vaporwave stuff is all about. So the more I dug into it, the more I was interested in it and fascinated by it, and its whole concept and the way it worked and what people were doing with it. And was like, let me take a crack at this. This is a new style of music. I haven't really done it yet. And it kind of revolves around what I'm already used to, which is sample-based, loop-based music, which I can already do. I've been doing that for years. You know, let's play with it. Kind of try to put my own twist on it, which is what I always do. And then I discovered the VCC and just joined. Started talking to people and, you know, just seeing what everything was all about. Like, see what's this big vaporwave thing. And the first people that I remember talking to from that scene that actually gave me the time of day was Mesh, was the first one. And I just happened to stumble upon his music just looking around. And just immediately fell in love with freaking Dream Sequence. I loved that album. And then he talked to me like I was just another person, which to me spoke volumes about him and his character. That he, you know, here's this guy who's like one of the top tier people in this whole thing, and he's talking to me like I'm just, you know, one of the people. And then I encountered Vaporer, and he did the same thing. Talked to me like I was just another one of the guys, and we got to chat, and I asked questions and learned a lot. And in the process of, you know, talking to these people, I wound up getting enough confidence to take a chance and release the first album that I did in the vaporwave genre, which is aptly named, because I'm so creative at naming things, Vaporwave. And I put this one out, and the whole concept with this one was simply, can I do it? There's no story, there's no overall concept. It was just, hey, can I do Vaporwave? Can I do it? And I sat down and I tried. Made a little half an hour EP length thing and put it out. With a bunch of stolen Google images that I manipulated in Photoshop. Because I'm lazy and have no skill with Photoshop. So then I wanted to toy with this future funk sound that I was getting into. And decided to, alright, I'm going to dig for some really funky sounding stuff from all the vinyl I have, or things that I remember from the back of the day. And then I did the Funkware Inc. tape, and these were the first two that I released. And I put that on purple tape just because I thought it looked cool. And I put together what I thought was a really funky vaporwave twist on the future funk sound with my own take on it. And that was really the whole concept, and I just did the Funkware Inc. playing on the whole corporate overtones that vaporwave's supposed to have and whatever, and then just threw Japanese characters on there because, you know, that's the thing to do. And that's really all there is to that one. I mean, there's not really much of a story past that. And anybody who got this tape, if you actually look in the background of the cover art, it's really hard to see. But the text that's in the background there was actually a parody blue screen that just makes a joke out of blue screens. I just thought it was funny, so I just overlaid it on there. And then I got talking to a guy by the name of Thor Kissing, who has an alias by the name of Color. And he sent me one of his random tapes. I think it was the his take on Echo Jams. And in that tape, he threw in a bunch of just loose tape, like the tape out from the inside of the cassette. And when I opened that envelope, I about freaked because I thought that the whole thing was damaged, or he just tore the tape out and threw it in there. And it turns out it was just part of the packing that he was doing for fun. And in the course of me and him talking, the name Ohm-N-I actually was created probably around 2000, I want to say, around the year 2000. And that was around the time that I was going through some stuff, and I was trying to make changes in my life and get all the negativity out and try to think more positively. And then the Ohm-N-I name is derived from my interest in electronics and stuff. Resistors are measured in what's called ohms, which are spelled O-H-M, and that measures the resistance that that resistor can do. And the N, which usually in electronics stands for negative, and then I is usually for impedance, I think, but I just changed that to influence. So the whole title basically means resistance to negative influence, and that's where the Ohm-N-I name came from. Kind of what I was trying to do at the time with myself, and I still continue to do to this day, and my fascination with electronics. So hopefully that answers where the name came from and when I did it. But back to the Thor kissing story. So that loose tape that he had thrown in the envelope, while we were talking, I was like, you know, I'm going to throw that in a tape shell and spool it just to see what it randomly is. And it turns out it was freaking, oh, what was his name? The guy that did Do You Think I'm Sexy? His name is escaping me right now. It turned out to be a bit of that song. And I was like, why don't we like do a collab on this and like play with this just for shits and giggles? So we wound up just randomly collabing using just that sample, and we came up with my first collab track on this, which is Do You Think I'm Sexy, I think. Yeah. So this was my first collaboration, and it was just a track. So I was starting to talk to this artist by the name of Lucid Sound Driver, and who y'all may know as Rod Stewart, that was it. Who y'all may know as Jack Murphy. And we got to talking. I was just fascinated by how he put so much thought into his albums and did like these grand concept story things. And I already love stuff like that because of my obsession with Nine Inch Nails, and everything's a concept album with him and everything's telling a story. So that actually inspired me to start doing more conceptual stuff and kind of put more thought behind it, which made things a lot easier for me to come up with ideas. And that brought me to, I think it was this one. Is this the right one? Yeah. That brought me to the album After These Messages. The whole concept with this one is, I grew up with Saturday morning cartoons. I was up every morning, ready to watch the Ninja Turtles, the fucking Nintendo commercials, Sega Genesis commercials, all the cartoons then, Darkwing Duck, Batman the Animated Series. You know, sitting there, tiny little Emmanuel, geeking out over cartoons, eating a cereal. And I just kind of was remembering those days, and I wanted to do a concept album kind of like, it was just kind of like that. And, you know, everybody remembers the little jingles for After These Messages, and the dog and the ABC little bumper things. So there's my homage to that as well. And I just kind of wanted to put this thing together. It kind of felt like Saturday morning. And then as time went on, I was trying to find somebody to release it because I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm going chronologically. I was trying to find somebody who could put this out because I didn't have the time to do it at the time or the ability. And I was talking to Power Lunch at that point, and we were just tossing ideas back and forth, and he said that he would put it out for me, and I said, well, here's my concept. Is this feasible? And he said, yeah, and then I tweaked the artwork for his templates, and Power Lunch put this out, and I guess it did well, I think. But that's the whole story behind that one. And in the process of all this, I came up with another concept for endless channel surfing. And the whole idea for this was a one-off novelty thing. I think I maybe spent 2 days on the audio. But the concept was I wanted to put Vaporwave on an endless loop tape. So I did about 6 minutes of channel surfing and sat with an endless loop tape trying to figure out how to make it actually, for as best as I could, seamlessly loop. And I put out endless channel surfing, so it just keeps playing forever until you hit stop. And I had a guy that I met in the community. I can't remember his name off the top. You know what? It's in here. It was Jim Jam. He helped me actually put the cover art together and did some really cool tricks with that. And then I put this out. I painstakingly spent probably the better part of a week trying to dub them all. And because them endless loop tapes were expensive, put it out and sold them for like $10. Because frickin' this one tape costs $8 to frickin' get. And there were some mishaps with that because first round it was 5 of them that they sent me were bad and wouldn't dub. So I had to send them back and then wait for replacements. And then in those replacements, 2 more of them wouldn't dub. So I had to send them back, got the replacements, and then 1 of those wouldn't dub. At this point, I'm just like, you know what, screw this. Ordered another one from Duplication CA, which, by the way, if you're going to get endless tapes, get them from Duplication CA. Duplication CA, I think, has the hands-down best ones. So that was really the story with this one. It was an effort to make this happen, but I managed to pull it off, and I will admit my wrong if I'm wrong on this, but I think this is the first and still the only endless loop Vaporwave EP tape thing so far. And that was my whole thing. I wanted to be the first one, or at least the first one. I don't know if I accomplished that. I think I did. I haven't found any other ones yet. If I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong. But that's all there was to that. It was to be the first one. Where am I here? I've done so much stuff here that I don't even know where I'm at. This was 10. I think... Nope, that's not it. That's not it. That's definitely not it. Okay. So, the next concept album was Unknown Analog. And the concept behind this was I wanted to do a Vaporwave album without using a computer. No computer involvement whatsoever. And see if I could pull it off. And a lot of the samples and everything I used for this were using random Walkmans, a mixer, vinyl, VHS, a bunch of random shit that I had around. And I ran it all through. I can actually show you. Through that stereo right there. And everything was cut, edited, and basically final form on the mini disc. And I did. There was no computers involved except for the very last piece, and all that was just to level everything out and make sure everything was at the same volume level. And that was it. I didn't do any effects in the computers, any post-editing, nothing. It was all done solely using that stereo and bringing everything down to mini disc. And all the editing was done on mini disc, and that was it. So then, I started talking to a certain Avery Vickers who's talking about it. About this album, because he runs a noise and experimental label. I'm like, well, it doesn't get any more experimental than this for me at this point. And we got to talking about it, and he decided to release it for me. And being utterly awesome about the whole thing, and being very supportive of it, and being just generally pleasant to work with the whole thing. And, I mean, come on. The tape looks freaking awesome. Everything, even the J card feels nice. Like, he did a good job with this. And then in the process of that, a side note, this is out of order. Because he was he runs a noise label, and he had a plethora of 97-minute tapes, and I was already starting a really experimental, just kind of random, noisy, interesting sounding concept, which was based off of, let me take extra tone and slow it down to like 120 beats per minute, just to see what it sounds like. And that birthed this album, which I'm going to give you props, Avery. You did help guide me in a direction, and you did have an influence on the final product. We talked about this, and I literally made this album exactly 97 minutes. And it was just a lot of just random experimentation and random stuff to go with the initial noise experiments. Just, it sounded interesting. It was like, oh, what would this do? Or what would this sound like if I do this with it? And just a lot of experiments. And the artwork, the cover, is actually like 6 different images, with 4 of them being stolen from Google and heavily manipulated, and the rest of it was pictures from the trip back from Rhode Island when me and the wife went up there for a little bit. In fact, the tape labels are just straight pictures that I happened to take while trying to take pictures of New York. We were on the bridge, and the way the tail lights of the cars blurred, I just thought looked really cool, so I used a lot of that. And just came up with the concept of being that it sounds really strange and you don't know where this thing is going. Called it Sound Artifacts from the Edge of a Flat Earth. Just because. It was a fun little project to just throw together and just experiment with sound, see what happens. Anywho, back to the original direction. We have album 12. This one, the kanji on it actually translates to slowed down drum and bass, which is actually a play on what vaporwave actually is, and then taking the whole vaporwave concept of take this sound and slow it down, reorder it, and chop it up and throw a bunch of reverb on it. So I took that exact concept verbatim and grabbed a bunch of drum and bass records and made that album. That was it. There was no story, no grand concept. And then the idea that I had for the J card was I wanted to do almost poster size, just cause. And then all the imagery on this was actually taken off of a VHS tape that I found at my grandmother's. And I ran it through my video capture and just pulled random screenshots. That was it. I think this was from a Visine commercial, and then I overlaid it with some random music video thing, I guess. I don't remember. But that's the concept behind that album. Where am I at? That was 12. Now we're on 13. Now, a little story about 13. I swear I came up with the concept of this album and already had it planned out and started working on it and put everything together and had the general layout before I knew the game Stanley Parable existed. So, corporate mind control. The whole concept behind this was to kind of tell a story about a guy who works 9 to 5 every day of his life in a corporate building and just goes in, does the routine, and then one day kind of wakes up and realizes there's something not quite right. And he tries to figure out what's going on or why this not right thing is the way it is, but he can't go to anybody or any of the higher ups and ask questions because, well, they're in on it. So that basically evolves into him trying to escape and just get out. That's really the whole concept behind that. And then Atlantis decided to... I think I've been pronouncing this wrong. Atlantis? Something like that. The label that put out 2814, self-titled album. He was all about putting this out, so I made a special edition version where I added 3 more tracks to it and made it a little bit longer. The reason for the 3 more tracks was also to kind of balance out a tape version as well. So I gave him that version, which was aptly called the TPS Report Edition. Anybody who's seen Office Space, you know where that came from. And he put it out and promoted it, and I think it received well. I haven't checked on it in a while. And then I decided to release the tape version on Section 9. And that's the story on that one. Now we're on... Here's a recent one. This one just came out, but it's actually the 14th album that I did. If anybody's ever wondered what this was all about, this is the order the albums were actually done. And this was actually inspired by 9 Inch Nails. If you look on all their CDs, they have a Halo number. These are my numbers for all of my albums that I put on, and this literally is the order that they've gone in and how many at this point I have done. So there's the story of why there's a random ALB number on everything. But anywho, so this one has a bit of a story. The concept with this album, there's a reason I have 2, I'll get to that. The concept with this was I worked in retail a lot, and I kind of wanted to do something along the lines of just Muzak sounding, background sound, retail feeling thing. So I came up with Lazy Shopping Days, which is what that translates to. Now, originally this was supposed to also come out about a year ago, but the label that was working on it disappeared. And I was sitting on this for a while because I was going to just put it out on Section 9, and things happened. I couldn't get around to it. So I was kind of shopping it around, see who wanted to pick it up. And Laser Burn Audio came out to and said they would love to put something out by me. So I started talking with him and gave him this one. And yeah, the Laser Burn's quality is freaking top freaking notch. We worked with getting it put together, and here it is. He did 2 versions of it. One without Dolby NR noise reduction, and then one with it. And I haven't listened to this version yet, but I did listen to the regular one so far. Audio quality-wise, even with no extra noise reduction or anything, tape sounds freaking phenomenal. And the quality of this, I mean, this looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, just perfect. Exactly how I envisioned it. Shout out to Laser Burn. And even the J cards, like, perfectly cut and everything. Yeah, I'm just thrilled with how this came out. If y'all haven't gotten anything from Laser Burn, go get some stuff. Stuff's quality. It's good stuff. Even if you don't buy mine, buy the other stuff. So where am I now? Okay, yeah. So now we're on the self-titled album. There was no real concept behind this. It was just simply, hey, I have a bunch of tracks that I don't know what to do with. So I just put them all together on a self-titled album that doesn't really have any concept. And put it out on Section 9, I think. Did I do this one on Section 9? I think I released it through my solo Bandcamp, and then I moved it over to Section 9. But yeah, that was really it. One of my friends on Facebook, she posted a picture of herself at a wrestling match, and I just liked the way she looked in this picture, and I asked her if I could use it. So she said yeah, and I superimposed her over there, just kind of make a little ominous looking figure in this cityscape there. I thought it was really cool. And if y'all want to check out, I mean, she is a book writer, she's published, she's freaking awesome. If you want to check her out, there's her name. I'm glad I did let you do the lazy shopping days there, Laz. It came out phenomenal, and I couldn't be happier. I'm excited to see what you do with the next synthwave album that I got going here, which we got to get together on that and at least hash out that one track, because I would love to have you involved on that track, because I liked what you were starting to do with it. So anywho, at this point, I don't know what order this stuff came out, but in the course of all this stuff that was coming out, there's a resurgence of everybody doing an Echo Jams style tape album thing, or at least a play on it. I decided, you know what? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon just for shits and giggles. No point. Just a joke. And that's where the Flounder Jams came from. And this is kind of me just poking fun lightheartedly at the whole Echo Jams concept. There's no purpose or point. This was just something I threw together in like 3-4 days and ran out of ideas and just slapped this together and called it a day. It was fun, it was goofy, it was poking fun at it all and just having fun with it. And I figured, you know, let's throw out an Echo Jams thing and call it a day. And I still think it was funny. Somebody actually commented that that they wished it was longer. And the funny thing is I was actually trying to make it longer. I just could not come up with any ideas. So, as time progressed, I started really talking with a buddy of mine named Sky. And we started talking because I put this random message out saying, hey, I want to do a really loud and angry album. Does anybody want to join with me on that and collab? And he was the only one that continually kept talking about it, and we wound up coming up with a bigger concept than what I initially had planned. And because of that project where we were working on this loud, angry album, which was very tough, by the way, emotionally and mentally, because of the mind space we had to get into, I had apparently inspired him to do this album, which is Witness My Demons. And with this album, we decided to play off of the story that he had started and expanding on a loose concept that we had with the Loud Angry album, and kind of tell a story of two people getting together and fighting through some really shitty moments in their life together, and basically being each other's support, so to speak, and coming out on top. And with the Witness My Demons, we played off of this album, and then worked our way into Demons, which was released on Please Hate Me Inc., which Please Hate Me Inc., the name of that label even played into the whole overall concept. The first album is telling the story of each individual character in this overall story that the Ohm-N-I project was telling. This was Arduria's side, and I'll get to the Ohm-N-I side. So we got to the Battle album, as it is. Like this we're in the seventh circle of hell. We're battling our demons. We're trying to just survive. And frickin' Please Hate Me Inc. did an amazing job on this tape. Like, this tape just looks killer. And from this, like, this was a hard album to do, because we got dark with it. Got dark, loud, and angry. Exactly what I wanted to do. And we were writing a story which was kind of becoming a bit personal to us. And in the process of actually doing Demons, we were already working on the third chapter to kind of give our brains a break from doing this dark, loud, angry, aggressive stuff. Side note, one of the songs from this album is actually in a independent Silent Hill film. It's called Silent Hill Requiem. Check it out if you haven't already. So, back to Embracing Angels. This is the happy ending. This is the happy ending to the whole trilogy. And when I went to release this, I wanted to release Ohm-N-I's side to the beginning. I couldn't bring myself to write anything like that original, or come up with anything dark again, because I just couldn't get back in that headspace to do that. So what I did was, well, instead of doing that, other people have already said it better. Why don't I just make it a mixtape? And just do a mixtape with one original song, which is the very first track. And this essentially tells Ohm-N-I's side of the beginning. And both of these lead into Demons. In fact, if you play all these back to back to back to back, they seamlessly go together as one just long thing. The only difference is both of these lead into Demons, which leads into Embracing Angels. And you can start with either or, but these won't play one after the other and be seamless. So that's the whole Omedex storyline. And this was a tough one. So, another concept I did. I'm skipping over an album at the moment, because I'm saving the longest one for last. So, while working on another album, what I did with one of the tracks on it actually inspired me to do a concept playing with that idea. And what the idea was I'd find a random MIDI track that I would use as like kind of like a bass line. And I don't mean B-A-S-S, I mean B-A-S-E. Kind of like the foundation to start from for a track. And the MIDI file might be from Lady Gaga, ringtone from a Nokia N-Gage, or just like anything that just made my ears perk up. So, Time Hotel happened based off of that concept, where I'd start with that and then build off of that and build these these tracks from that, and then put the whole thing together. The name for the album was actually inspired by a hotel that me and Amanda saw coming back from Rhode Island on a different one, another one of our trips. And then another side note, that's actually a picture of the hotel. The artwork back here on the flap, that is the Tempe Bridge, and that is actually the same picture, modified differently. And then the tape labels were also different pictures from the Tempe Bridge. And then I handed this one off to Legendary Entertainment, who just did a phenomenal job with this. Tapes are gorgeous. I'm really happy with these. And they sound great. But that's the short story behind this one. There's not much to it. I had another idea that was sitting on the back burner for a while that I wanted to do and wanted to get out on tape. And it was, I've done all these mixtapes and all these different mix concepts and various ambient mixes and whatever. And I would do a lot of like one-off tracks just for these various things. So I kind of wanted to take these one-off tracks that I really liked or was really proud of and just put them in a collected thing. And that's where the Collected Works Volume 1 and 2 came from. And these were put out on Hairs Ablazing. Another phenomenal label. If y'all haven't checked out Hairs Ablazing yet, get your butt on Bandcamp. Go check them out. They're freaking, the owner is absolutely freaking amazing. And probably one of the most nicest, wholesome dudes you will freaking ever meet. Like, he was just killer dude. And the quality of these, I mean, look at this. We did double-sided J cards that just look stellar. And then the tapes, he chose the green and blue glitter tapes. I'm like, dude, that's a really cool idea because I haven't had anything on glitter yet. And when I saw these firsthand, man, I was floored because they just looked beautiful. I mean, I could go on for the next couple hours how beautiful these look. I mean, look at that. I mean, he just did an amazing job with those. So, he put those out, and probably, hopefully, maybe, might have another ambient album that I'm going to give him to put out and just kind of let him go to town with it, just have some fun with it. But these are just collected works of just various one-off tracks that I did for random projects that I did, and one unreleased track is on the first volume, and the demo version for the track that I had on the Vinyl Moon compilation is on this one. So you get a different version of Coral Reef on this tape. Let's see. Speaking of Vinyl Moon, I was actually on this compilation, which just looks like a really killer record. I am track 2 on side B. And this one happened because a certain man by the name of Matt Kessler hit me up and said, "Hey, I really love your Jellyfish album. Would you be interested in maybe putting one of those tracks on a Vinyl Moon compilation?" I didn't even think twice about it because I knew what Vinyl Moon was all about. I mean, this was a big deal. And I immediately said, hell yeah, let's do it. So we went through all the paperwork and everything that needed to make it happen, and boom, they managed to put one of my songs on there. And little side note, for anybody who got this record, my wife is the one who wrote that blurb there. So shout out to my wife for being a better writer than me, because I can't write about myself. So, another vinyl thing that I did way back was I wanted to try to put out a single 7-inch with just a remix that I did for Macintosh Plus, the famous 420 track. I did this remix playing with MIDI and stuff in probably like two and a half hours. I think I did the whole remix. And it was one of those things, like, once it was done, I'm like, I can't touch this anymore, because if I mess with it anymore, it's going to sound like crap. So, in an attempt to get it physical, I tried to do a pre-order thing to get just lathe cuts done. Which, long story short, people got butthurt. People bitched about the most stupidest of things, to the point that I just got fed up with it and took the whole damn thing down. So, I took it back behind the scenes, and me and a handful of friends, we decided to actually just press it for just us. So this version is the original lathe cut that I was trying to do, and only 4 of these exist. So, fast forward to the year 2018. A bunch of people have always been asking me, hey, are you ever going to reissue that? Or, hey, you should actually put that up again. Or, you should reissue that again, or something. It was kind of getting to the point that they were kind of starting to twist my arm. And Avery Vickers there was the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He was the last one to ask me before I finally bit the bullet. Conveniently at that time, I was talking to Bubble Kiki, who was actually did the remix that was on side B. So I bit the bullet, and I brought it up to him and said, hey, I did this thing a while back, and showed it to him, told him about it, and said, hey, would you want to maybe try it again and see what happens? And he gave his blessing for me to use his remix. I even showed him the edit that I did to it, because the remix is actually shorter than the original one, just to make it fit on the 7-inch. And he was all for it. So I decided to retool the artwork, hence why it's purple now, put his name on it, and just kind of clean things up and make it look a little bit better. And in the process of that, I decided to go the route of crowdfunding for one reason. And it was solely because, okay, y'all want this record? Y'all want this to happen? Y'all twisting my arm to make it happen? Then you make it happen. I did my part. I did the audio. I put it together. Because I had so much animosity toward that thing. I fucking hated that record. Because of just, it had a bad taste in my mouth from the first attempt. And it was just, it was crap. And I didn't like it. So, we put the thing together. And I put it up on crates. Within the first day, the thing was over halfway funded. Actually, within a couple hours, the thing was halfway funded. I think I have Eric to thank for that. I apologize. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but he runs Sly Vinyl, I think it is. He was all about making this record happen. So, I actually was like kind of hyped for this again. And it was a few days before it ended, and it needed just a couple more to be funded. And these couple of jokers came out of the woodwork bitching about the font that we used for it. And just like the dumbest of things. Like they were just grasping at straws, trying to find something to complain about. And we're just sitting here laughing like, God, I'm glad that I am not so miserable to be online bitching about the most trivial of things. Not more than, say, an hour after the post that these guys were just blowing up about it got pulled, the thing was fully funded. And that it was done. So, got the test presses. It's happening. The final is going to be on a gold record. It's got a purple cover now. The labels are now purple instead of pink. But yeah, so attempt number 2, and it's actually going to happen now. So now I'm going to talk about, well, I do want to talk about this one because I forgot about this one. I started toying with the synthwave sound and came up with Planet Neo Tokyo, which is what that translates to. And the whole original idea was I'm going to do this thing that kind of tells a story, but I'm not going to tell anybody what it is. And the reason for that was when you get this album and you listen to it, you make up your own story. Therefore, you're kind of making this album a little bit yours. And the concept was just kind of telling the story of an android who finds this random futuristic planet, and he is just trying to figure out what this world's all about. And the next Synthwave album is actually a sequel to this, and I'm going to play with that. So, the reason that this happened is Golf Audio hit me up at one point, and they wanted to release an album for me. And the first initial one I was going to give them, I don't remember what it was. It was... I didn't think it was good enough because of how the two guys that run Golf Audio, how they were to me, I'm like, I want to give you guys something better. And then when I was demoing this to, I think it was Austin, he just was geeking out over it. And he was like, oh my God, this is really good. This is great. So I was like, that seals it. I'm going to give you this album. So this was the one concept and the one thing that I had a stipulation about is I really wanted it on a green tape like this. Jason Rabin, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, he bent over backwards and he went out of his way to make sure that this album came out on a green tape. There were quite a few delays on getting this out because of that, and I'll tell you what, I am tickled pink with this. And I won't forget the day that Cole Kilpatrick sent me this cover art. I gave him like probably the hardest stuff to work with. I sent him a freaking folder from my PS4 that just had a bunch of screenshots from No Man's Sky. It said, here you go, work with this. This is kind of the visual thing that I want to go with. And he spit this back to me, and I was damn near in tears because I loved how much this looked. Like, this looked freaking killer. I could go on for days about how much I just freaking love that cover art. And then, handed everything over to Golf Audio. They made sure that they did this as best as they possibly could. And here it is. I was really proud of this album. It was my first venture into synthwave. I still kind of want to get this on vinyl, if I could. I mean, the movie samples are going to be really hard to clear or get away with, unless I find that special label that can do everything in-house and doesn't care. But yeah, that's really the whole story behind this. And I'm not going to show off any of the video game soundtrack tapes that I did for fun, because this whole stream is about the original works that I've done, not the reproduction stuff, so to speak. Oh yeah, and the Planet Neo Tokyo did get a CD release, but that CD was only handed out to a select set of people. And each one of those CDs was made by hand and made unique per person. So there, if you want something that's even more rare than most Telepath albums, that CD is. I haven't even made that CD public. The CD also includes the bonus track that the mini disc does. So, now I'm going to get to the remixes and collabs, and that's pretty much everything. We'll just start with the first mixtape that I did for a series that I tried to do with the Section 9 label, where I just wanted to have like artists do their own little mixtape thing, and then I'd release it limited quantity. It's a one-off thing, called a day. This was the first one I did. I went with a very outer space journey theme, from like takeoff, travel through outer space, and then landing again. And that was the first mixtape that I put on Section 9 by me. Then, there was a contest that Bedlam Tapes did to do a remix of the... Is that Argaflex, I think? Is that how you pronounce it? There was a contest to do remixes for the Throatless album. I entered one just for the fun of it, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to have fun with this. I had fun making the track. I'm going to enter it. Didn't expect to even be picked. Didn't expect anything to even come of it, but I had fun doing the track. Lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, I get told that mine got picked to be put on it. And then we got the physical tape, which kind of sucked. I had to pay for it. But I have it. And I am, again, Side B, Track 3. This camera does not want to focus. Focus! Regardless, I'm Track 3, Side B. And it is the progressive sci-fi. I decided to go with kind of like a housey, science fiction-y sounding thing. And that was on this tape. One of the PZA albums, I needed to fill Side B, and when he sent this over, I had the random idea to do a drum and bass remix of the first track on it, so I did the last track on side B. And that was just, I needed a filler track and had that random idea when I first heard the album, so I did it. Then there was a certain wizard that is lonely. Randomly out of nowhere, decided to hit me up and said, hey, why don't we do an Adult Swim themed album? And I immediately said yes, because I was like, this would be fun, because we had numerous conversations about Adult Swim and old cartoons and shit like that. And he did, one of the things that I always complimented him on is how he did that, managed to capture that sound in a lot of his music. And I just ate it up. And it had that feel about it. So we came up with Night Swim. And I think the whole concept we went with was just do one side kind of has the more what Adult Swim's known for, like Aqua Teen, C-Lab 2021, The Brack Show, Space Ghost, Coast to Coast, etc. And I would tackle that one because that was what I was more into than the anime. He was more into the anime, so we just kind of just went down and kind of took a little stab at Toonami a little bit. So we threw some skits in there. We had fun with it. And to be honest with you, if not for him, my side would probably sound a lot shittier than it does. But yeah, the wizard, I have to shout him out. He definitely helped guide me in a direction with this. And not only did we do an amazing looking tape that has my aunt's swimming pool as the cover, we did the VHS. Because he had a guy do a video for the entirety of the album. And I decided for fun to put it on VHS. I dubbed 3 of these. He has one, I have one, and he gave one away at Wizstock. And then we went with the Scotch tape looking design, because we were talking about blank tapes and how I recognized what he used for the cassette label and everything, and we just rolled with it. So this was probably one of my most proudest collaborations, because I got to work with somebody that I very much admire and very much look up to, and I think we put together a really solid album together. I've decided it is a bit too quiet, so I'm actually going to go put this in real quick. So, another album that was released on Section 9, Liam Wells sent me this guy and said, hey, why don't you have him put the album out. I heard the album. It was a really cool experimental sounding tape, and I was like, I really dig this. And again, side B was just uber short, and I needed something to fill it, and I had this concept that I threw to the guy. I was like, what about let me throw this concept at you of taking the entirety of the album, mashing it all together as if it was one track, kind of going backwards, so to speak, and kind of bringing the album back around. So technically you could literally play this back to back to back to back, side A, side B, side A, side B, and it kind of has that flow, like it just keeps coming back around. And he wound up liking the idea, and we went with it. And Liam also did the cover art for the whole album, and a couple months later we had it out. As soon as I have the time and the money to release more stuff past what I already have planned, we'll look at doing a Death Circuit one. Eon hit me up and wanted me to do a track for his TV channel concept compilation. And I threw him one that kind of played off of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I chose the channel 42, because it's what I do. And just threw that track on there. It was kind of a nice fun little track I threw together. I think I spent about a week on it. Very vaporwavy and spacey. In the process of talking to Otto and working on getting one of his tapes out, he asked me if I would be interested in doing a remix for one of his tracks for his metaphysics something. I forget how to pronounce it. So I said, sure, I would love to, because I love Otto and the music he does is great. So I don't know how this keeps happening, but Side B, Track 2 is my remix. I'm beginning to notice a theme that I'm always Track 2 or Track 3 on Side B. And that was how that happened. He sent me the project files, I remixed it, kind of did my own take on it, and there it is. Then I had another guy hit me up from, I think it's DMP Tapes. Y'all know him as DJ Dilapidated, something. You'll know him if you saw him. I'm butchering the name. I'm not going to try to be any better. He hit me up and told me about this Vaporwave Apothecary concept he had, and he really wanted me to do a track for it. So I pulled a track from one of my other... Yeah, that one. And took that track, finally sat down and finished it. It was from another project that never went anywhere. So I pulled this track, which was very vaporwavy. I pulled it from some Korean artist, and I was toying with it. So I went with that and went with the whole traditional vaporwave sound and sent that off to him. And now it's on this compilation, and I opted to, granted I was getting the artist copy an artist copy for free, which is the white tape. I still went and bought the consumer copy, which was the purple tape. And then I was hit up by my homeboy back to 8 AM Records. He wanted to include a track from me on his anniversary compilation. And I had this drum and bass track that was kind of aggressive and kind of felt like it would work there. And I threw him that, and he included it on this one. And if you run that track through a Spectrum analyzer, you will see the 8 AM logo show up in the Spectrum. Because I thought, it'd be kind of fun to give him a little shout out, and I liked the way it sounded when I ran it through that. And then there was the Motorwave compilation, where everybody did a car theme sounding song and did a car theme album. And then there's the last one. This one has the biggest story. And probably the hardest story. This is my testament of how powerful music itself can be. Rather listening to it or rather creating it, music can be a very powerful tool. especially if you're somebody like me who, on a daily basis, struggles with depression and anxiety. This album was made in 2 weeks, give or take a day or two. And the reason it was 2 weeks is for 14 or so days, every day, for 8 hours a day, sometimes minimally 8 hours a day, sometimes more, I worked on this album. And the reason I spent so much time working on this album was because I was at a very dark and low point in my life. And it was a very binary point in my life. And when I say binary, I had in my head 2 options. Kill myself or work on this album. We obviously know which one I chose. So this album, in a sense, saved my life. And this album, when working on it, was part of my moment of peace in that dark period of time. And there were 3 people that took the time to also make sure I was okay and talk with me during that period of time. Actually, it was 4, now that I think about it. And they were the only people that I would talk to. I wouldn't talk to anybody in real life. I shut everybody out. And I just worked on this album because it was the one thing that was bringing me that calm and that sanity. That and the 4 people that took the time out of their day to spend time with me via video chat or whatever, to talk to me and make sure I was okay. I'm not going to shout them out because I know a couple of them would get a little shy and bashful, so I don't want to name drop out of respect for them, but they know who they are. And they're in this chat. But yeah, this album was birthed from a dark place and took well over a year to finally come out. I had initially submitted it to one label that was all about releasing it, and they were going to put it out, and they promised me it was going to come out, it was going to come out, it was going to come out. And it never came out. It never went anywhere. So finally I took it back. And I was about to just put it out myself because I got tired of waiting on that other label, which was just not doing anything. And then they disappeared and closed up shop. So then I wound up in the process of getting ready to, or figuring out how I was going to release it myself, got in contact with another label and we started talking about it. And then he was going to release it. He was all about releasing it. And again, it was taking forever. It was almost like nothing was happening. It just wasn't going to come out. They weren't doing anything with it. It was just, as before, was excuse after excuse after excuse, or just radio silence or whatever. So again, I took it back. And then I went to a third label. The reason that label didn't release is they wanted to change the artwork too much. This artwork was done in a very specific way. It was meant to be very simplistic. The whole album is meant to be very simplistic, big, and complex sounding, but very simple. And I'll come back around to what the concept with that is. But they wanted to change the art way too much, and I just didn't like where it was going. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And then, I know you're still watching. Crunk Chris, Legendary Entertainment, came out of left field. It's like, yo, let me release that one. he already released Time Hotel, so I knew the guy was up for the task to actually treat this album right. Handed him everything, gave him everything to put this out. It took him a minute, but he was very adamant on not changing anything. This is exactly what I envisioned this album to look like. This is exactly what I expected, exactly how I saw it, and exactly what I wanted. He handled it beautifully, created a beautiful tape, and I couldn't be happier. Over a year it took to get this out. And the funny thing is I remember Chris came to me initially when I was trying to get this released and said he would be willing to put it out. And I turned him down because the other label already, agreed to put it out. And here we are, a year or so later, he's the one who wound up putting it out. And I could not be happier. And you know what? Hats off to Chris with Legendary Entertainment and Tiger Blood. Y'all put out beautiful stuff. He obviously puts the effort in. I know you guys know who Legendary and Tiger Blood is. I don't even need to tell you because you already know. But the fact that he would not compromise any aspect of this just meant a lot to me. The simplistic nature of everything and just keeping it very simple was because that's how I wanted to feel at the moment that I was making this. This album is very much a reflection of how I wanted to feel at that time. Not how I was feeling. Like most of the stuff that I do, it's what I'm feeling at the moment. This is actually how I wanted to feel. And I listen to this album now and it's like, you know what? I did it. I got through it. And I'm still here. And I have so many people to thank for that. And all of you are watching this video right now. I feel very blessed by the labels and the people that I've met, the people that I've collabed with, the people that I've talked to, the people that I've shared all these moments with. You're the reason that I'm still doing it. None of this was, I can't say none of this was ever for me. Because when I make music and I do anything like this, I do it for an audience of one. I do it for me. So if I'm happy with it, then I've accomplished my goal. And past that, my mind has officially been blown by how many people have shown me love with all this, has told me how much they liked it, how much they enjoyed it. When I heard one dude say how this album got him through some shit, I literally stared at that comment for like 10 minutes, just floored. Like, that was it. I accomplished one of the things that I've always wanted to do. Was I wanted to make an impact on somebody or give somebody something that made them feel better. Because that's what it's all about for me. That's what the music is for me. And that's what this album was for me. But that is the journey from the beginning to where I am now. And I'm not stopping. I got so much more to do. So many more ideas. So many more concepts. And if a certain friend of mine and I can make a certain little toy that he just recently got work, we might have something really cool to show you guys. With that being said, here's to the future. Here's to awesome people. Let's keep doing what we do and keep supporting each other and keep putting out the awesome stuff that we do. Y'all have a good night and sleep well.